Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Sarah Felrose here. I'm bringing you some Pokemon Go Battle League content today. A little bit different than my usual spiel. Not doing battles today, but instead we're doing a Sinnoh Cup meta-analysis. That's right. So in the future, these meta-analysis are going to be something that I will keep by my Patreon. Link in the description if you want to check that out. Also offers great meta tips, teams, early access to my videos, and coaching and more. But I figured we just give this one a go and see how it pans out. We're going to be taking the Sinnoh Cup by storm this week, so just heads up, that starts on Monday after this video is uploaded. So just want to take some time, go over this meta, kind of give my thoughts on it, and kind of what to look out for. So Sinnoh Cup here is obviously anything Pokedex numbers, blah 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 through blah blah blah, basically anything from Gen 4. That's it. And anything that has Pokedex number from Gen 4. So without further ado, I'm going to go by the role, kind of, if you want to call it that, like the tanks, the tank busters, and then the anti-tank busters, and then just whatever the hell else is in the meta. And we'll kind of go into some cores that are going to be pretty strong in the meta, I feel. And then we discuss a couple of teams and then talk about some core breakers of those particular cores. So I guess without further ado, let's get started with the tanks. So we've got the tanks. I got the Pokemon that kind of fit the role of tank on the right. Mostly just your steel types, your heavy defense weighted stuff, or stuff that just has typing that makes it kind of hard to take down. So you got Bastiodon and Probopass as your like main rock steel kind of tanks. The not so tanky but still steel types kind of go with Empoleon and Magnezone. They're kind of like niche almost. You're not going to see a whole lot of them at first, I feel, just because of the Bastiodons. You might see, you might see some Empoleons, but the double steel deal, you're going to see a lot of things countering Bastiodon day one, I feel like. So having double steel may be kind of risky. But Bronzong and Wormadam Trash fill the role of steel types with confusion, which can be very helpful when you're trying to deal with something like the fighters, like Toxicroak, or just stuff of that nature. Now, the thing with the steel types is that this meta actually has quite a lot of things that can handle steel types, as well as a lot of things that get beat by the steel types. So a lot of the concern of this cup is going to come from a rock, paper, scissors standpoint, where it's like there's the steels, you have the tanks, or the steel tanks, then you have the tank busters, then you have the anti-tank busters, and then all kind of goes in a big triangle. So the thing with this meta is you're going to have to basically try to find the team that will help you kind of core break and combat that RPS. Try and get as much stability out of it as you can. So that's kind of one of the things to look out for. The next thing on the triangle here is going to be the tank busters. And I don't really need to go over like the matchups for the steel types. Like, we all know, like if we do at steel, you're going to get, a few things. You're also going to, or not that steel, you're going to see the steel types. Lucario comes up, but he's more of this section here with the tank busters. But all the other ones kind of fit that niche, or that mold of tank. But as far as the tank busters, I would like to just kind of anything that's ground and fighting. Let's do one at a time because apparently I'm inept at using PV Poke. So we've got Gastrodon is the main, really the core thing that's going to defeat Bastiodon. A lot of people are probably going to look to use that in the lead to spurn the Bastiodons away. But you've also got things like Gliscor. Gliscor having wing attack isn't exactly what I would call Bastiodon counter, but it has access to that Earthquake. But it's not listed on here. That's in another slide. So, but really we're going to focus in on the fighting types, I think, because those are really going to be the things that are going to really beat Bastiodon. And, there's only a few. So we've got the main three. We've got Lucario, we've got Toxicroak, and we've got Gallade. Now, Infernape doesn't count because Infernape is squishy, slow to get to moves, and it's not worth using. And Magmortar being the only other fire type, this is a meta where you can probably safely build an entire team that's weak to fire and still get away with it. But aside from those four, everything else kind of fits more of a spicy niche role rather than being an anti-tank. So we'll roll right ahead into some of these matchups. So like Lucario being number 1 on the ratings is huge. I'm not going to go into it too hard because it's Lucario, everybody knows about it. It's a very squishy, it's steel and fighting type. So the thing is, though, it has Shadow Ball, which allows it to really just knock out a lot of matchups that it normally otherwise shouldn't have. Like if you get it against the ghost type, if you land the shadow ball, you take that basically. And Lucario, I feel, is going to be a very strong save swap in this meta. If not, he's just a very potent closer, or something that can come in and farm down a Bastion if it's in the lead and you lose switch or something like that. But basically, what you're looking to do with these fighters is you're just looking to beat Bastion, and that's what most of the meta is probably going to be right off the bat. So that's what I'm saying. Maybe the steel types aren't exactly safe to run. So maybe you'd be better off running things that can kind of core break the steel fighting kind of meta that's going to erupt. Because the thing is now we're going to get into these like these fancy tank busters in a minute. But I want to take a minute just to kind of highlight Toxicroak and Gallade before I move on here. Toxicroak being the fighter, it obviously beats all the steals because it has counter and Mud Bomb, beats Abomasnow because it has counter, and it loses hard, though, to Gastrodon because of the ground. The oppressive damage from Mud Slap is just really hard to deal with, and unless you've got like a huge energy advantage, you're going to lose that matchup. And then Cresselia, Gliscor are two that will handle a Toxicroak pretty handily. Because of Cresselia's bulk and the fact that Gliscor basically just straight walls Toxicroak. So Froslass and Abomasnow are the ice types, and now I feel like Abomasnow is one of those things where you play your cards right and you shouldn't lose that matchup. Even if it's the Shadow, which we can see is technically listed as a loss for Toxicroak, that's just like even shields, and typically speaking, they're not going to stay in that matchup. They're going to try and come back in with energy or something like that in the middle of the match. So you're not really looking to expect this to be a loss, although if you're not careful, it can be. We can take a look at it for a minute here and see why exactly it's a loss too. You can see that what happens here is that Abomasnow is able to get to that Weather Ball, and a Weather Ball does a significant chunk of Toxicroak's HP, and at that point you just, the Powder Snow is doing 7 damage apiece. Those are significant enough to just take it down. So if Toxicroak takes one single Weather Ball from the Shadow Abomasnow, that's all it needs to get taken down. So something to keep in mind there as you play your battles next week and onward. Closing up here with Shadow Gallade and Gallade. Now Gallade is super squishy, but as a confusion user with access to Leaf Blade in close combat, it's a very potent thing in this meta. You're going to see it core break quite a bit of things, and you can notice that most of its losses are really due to its lack of bulk. Like, the Magnezone, yes, you win if you get to the close combat, but the Magnezone is going to outpace to the moves, and it's going to be able to get there before you can even finish baiting with a Leaf Blade. So it's not, Gallade, you'd have to have either shield advantage or you have to have a lot of energy advantage in order to really take advantage of some of those other matchups like Magnezone. But we look at Bastion, it straight walls the Bastion, and it can take out a Toxicroak in like 3 or 4 confusions. So easy matchup there. But yeah, the Bastion, you can even bait it with a Leaf Blade, and then you just clap it with one close combat, and that does, a close combat from a Shadow Blade will one-shot the Bastion. This is probably XL too. Yeah, this is XL. So let's just see what happens if it's a rank 1, 94.9%. That's a ton of damage. And no one's messing with a Gallade. If it comes in on a Bastion, the Bastion is screwed unless it's a like 1 or 2 to no shields on the Gallade's part, which running Gallade, you're probably expecting to save some shields for it. So, and then you could also run it with Charm, but please don't. Gallade's already squishy and it needs those charge moves to really do well. And Charm kind of takes away its entire ability to deal with anything. Just don't do it, please. So going into this next here, we've got the anti-tank busters. So the things that beat the fighting and ground types. So we've got things like Cresselia, Drifblim, Froslass, your 2 ghost types in this meta. You've got, Abomasnow, and then you've got your 2 grass holes. You've got Cherrim, and you've got Roserade. Now, not listed here is, Torterra and Grotle, which are the other Razor Leafers, and those are, while potent, there's going to be enough ice and Froslass in this meta to be worried about it. And the grass moves don't really do well even against the fighting types or the steel types. So you're going to find yourself in a bit of a pickle if the meta shifts or even just starts out in such a way that the steel types and such are everywhere. Like even a Roserade has a tough time against some steel types if it can't land the fire type Weather Ball. And then Togekiss is here as the only real fairy charmer in this meta. Um, it's not a very bulky one. Like, we're used to the Master League right now because that's currently the role we're in, but it's not very bulky. It will go down just about everything. Like you can see the charm users here. We've got Gallade and Togekiss. That's it. And Togekiss, while it beats handily the fighting types and the ground types, it will lose hard to the ice types. It will lose hard to Cresselia because Cresselia just outbulks it. And Empoleon will beat it. Drifloon will beat it from the icy wind damage. Frostlass whoops it because of ice moves in general. So I wouldn't really put Togekiss on the board as something that I'm looking to really play unless the meta goes in such a situation where you can hide it in the back and your opponents are all running double fighter. That's about the only time I would consider running the Togekiss in the meta. There's just too many steel types to really want to do it. It's so likely to just get hard countered wherever you use it that you basically have to use it in such a way that you can guarantee you're not going to get locked in against something of that caliber. Now, we'll just take a minute here and go through each one of these Pokemon and some of their key matchups. Now, you're running Moonblast on the Cresselia. The psychic damage is less useful in this meta because it takes an extra Psycho Cut to get to from Future Sight. And, I mean, Grass Knot, you need it. And Moonblast is fairy damage. And for the whole, aside from against Steel types, I mean, and the poison types, which, I mean, you could use Future Sight for the poison types, but the only two poison types that are really going to harm a Cresselia really end up being just the Dark Poison, Skuntank, and Drapion. So not really expecting that to go over too well, but Cresselia is just that big tanky safe swap that loses to steel types and can beat a lot of things if it lands the right moves. But, can't take a Shadow Ball, which you see the 3 Shadow Ball users here. Bastiodon wrecks it, and Abomasnow is just so spammy that it's able to get the damage in to beat it in a matchup where it's able to land enough moves. It's constantly just going straight for the bait on the Weather Ball. You land the bait, and it just goes for a couple energy balls, and you can basically take out the Cresselia. It does, 30% of its damage, and then it farms it down a little bit if it needs to. But you're kind of splitting hairs with the Abomasnow. Like Cresselia technically is okay there. It just, Grass Knot is not very effective. So, but Abomasnow is an offensive kind of powerhouse. But on Abomasnow, speaking quite specifically of Abomasnow, I'm actually kind of off of it in this meta. And the reason being is because there's so many things that just straight counter it. And it doesn't have anything that, you can safely lock in and farm out. Like, okay, Drifblim. You still have to worry about Icy Wind. Togekiss, okay, but Charm still hurts. You can get it in against, the Cherim or the Roserade, as long as the Cherim and the Roserade don't get to the Fire Weather Ball in time to take you out, and if the Roserade's not running the Poison Jab. So that is also something to keep in mind. Abomasnow, like, I love Abomasnow. It's one of the things that I grew into Great League with, and I enjoy using it, but it's just, in this particular meta, it isn't as strong as it first seems because of so many things in this meta that have the ability to deal with it. I don't know. I'm sure somebody will find a team and somebody will excel with it, but it's just not something that I'm personally super high on now. Obviously, with the Bastiodon / Probopass, you have a situation where you can run Grass Hole. Shame on you if you do, but you know what? People play tap to win, and that's okay. I'm not going to judge you too much, but I'd rather use some of these other picks than the next two here. So I'm going to jump down. We don't really need to really focus too much in on the grass types. Like, we know, like, Roserade and Cherim are going to be very interesting. I guess I'll talk about them for a minute. They're very interesting because they have access to the fire damage, which actually will be really nice in this meta because, like I said, the only fire types that are in the meta are Infernape or Monferno XL, which, not good. And then you've also got the Magmortar with Karate Chop or Fire Spin, which super squishy, loses to a lot of things anyway. But you can see that, Lucario, Drifblim, like, these things all don't like dealing with, probably because of the successful bait from the Solar Beam for some of these, but the Fire-type Weather Ball, you see things like Abomasnow, Magnezone, Lucario, all these things that are weak to fire damage and they don't like it. Like if you can catch any of these mons and lock them in against a Cherrim or a Roserade with Weather Ball Fire, that's dangerous. And like I said, you can easily build a triple weak to fire team and probably get away with it. But Lord help you if you do and you come across these things with the Weather Ball Fire, because the Roserade's Weather Ball, it hurts. Roserade's very attack weighted, and it's not. It don't feel good. You know, we'll look at Roserade real quick here. What is, if I could spell correctly today? Looking at Roserade here specifically, running that Bullet Seed, it's able to beat just about all the fighters due to that poison typing, and it's able to take out the ice types that would normally beat it because it's able to spam that Weather Ball so quickly. Things that you will lose to, though, because of the, you know, neutral-ish matchup plus the Icy Wind for Drifblim. Cresselia is going to outbulk it because it can do extra damage from the Psycho Cuts, and it doesn't really have to worry about it because it's so damn bulky. Bastiodon will whoop it, although a Leaf Storm will hurt a lot on a Bastiodon. And then there's Magnezone, which, again, if you can avoid getting whooped by a Wild Charge and you can land those Weather Balls, you're in a good spot against the Magnezone. And then you've got Munchlax, which is something we'll talk about in a minute. Munchlax just lands that Bulldoze for the extra damage where it spams Body Slams, and it's able to do mean things. So it's probably just a lick damage here. We'll take a look at that matchup too. Yeah, it's a very close matchup, and it just hinges on the Body Slams is what it really comes down to. So moving on, kind of going away from these anti-take busters here, I'm going to go into some of these more niche kind of picks. You've got the Dark Poisons, which are certainly good in just about any meta that they're in. You could run a double Dark Poison team and get away with that. But the thing is that there's quite a few counter users and a bunch of steel types, so they're going to be kind of running around with targets on their back. I'm not going to be touching them because I feel like I will have a target on my back if I do. Bastiodon can just wall these things, and even though with the crunch debuff, the Drapion can be a kind of close matchup, I'm not really one to really want to risk it because people will run Bastiodon if they have it. Bronzong kind of fits in this like area where it kind of core breaks a lot of the meta in a way. In some cases, it will need, you know, a shield advantage or it will need an energy advantage, but you know, because of that steel psychic typing, you're able to effectively wall things. Toxicroak goes down to confusions, obviously. Abomasnow can't really hang with the confusions with all the resisted damage from Weather Ball and Energy Ball. Cresselia loses to psychic types and steel. Well, it loses to steel types mainly, but the psychic typing makes it even harder for it to handle you. And then Gallade, just because you're double resisting those confusions, even if it lands to close combat, these confusions that are coming back at it, we're going to chunk it a lot more. You've got things like Drifblim that will actually handle it. But the thing is that my secret to Bronzong, run it with Payback and Bulldoze. I'm going to show you why. All right, so we're going to go, and I wish I could change the moves. If I change it to the Payback, can't change it to Payback on this page. The thing is with Payback, it will gain the dark types, the ghost types. It will be able to handle the ghost types that come in that have the Shadow Ball that are able to deal with it. And they might not see it coming, especially if you throw Bulldoze, they might not see it coming. And Bulldoze is what allows you to deal with things like the Magnezone, the Bastiodon, etc. You do have to be careful, though, about the charge moves coming from Magnezone and Bastiodon because that Flamethrower is going to hurt. You know, Bastiodon specifically, I looked at this one. A Bulldoze, despite being double super effective, only does about 44% of its HP, which isn't bad, except it's double super effective, and it just goes to show how bad Bulldoze is, honestly. But, you know, despite resisting those smackdowns, the opponent's also, like, resisting your confusions, and they've got a tank. So if they land the Flamethrower, that's pretty much that because it does almost 40% of your HP in kind. But their smackdown damage will add up just a bit faster than your confusions will because they're faster and they do the same amount of damage per hit. But if you can come in with like an energy advantage or have a shield advantage, we can see that Bronzong wins the no shields, it wins the 0 shields, and then it also wins with a shield advantage in any other situation. In even shields, Bronzong will lose the matchup because it will eventually take that Flamethrower and it will go down. But that matchup is so long at that point you could consider like catching a move or something. But I want to talk about Gliscor for a minute. So Bronzong, cool. Big meta core breaker. Actually, something that I will be looking to mess with myself. Gliscor, I don't currently have, and I'd have to see if maybe one of my shadows will work. But you look at Gliscor, all the fighters, all the grounds, the electrics, Bastiodon, Toxicroak, those are all just against a Gliscor. Now, the thing you have to worry about with Gliscor is ice damage, big one. And then Cresselia, while it can't necessarily enjoy all the Night Slashes, and you might get a boost, you still aren't really able to. It's just the bulk, right? So let's take a look at that one because Cresselia is going to be all over this meta. You can guarantee it. Um, it's a very close matchup, but what ends up happening is just the Night Slashes. They do decent damage. They do about 23%. If you get a boost, obviously you win this matchup, and you might even consider going into the two shields if you really want to like win switch or something against the Cresselia. But because of the damage that comes from Grass Knot being about 30% and Moonblast doing about 40%, like those charge moves are very spammy and they come out faster than you'd think. So that's one of those things where you just kind of have to gauge that situation. You'll come in with energy. Like the only way that Gliscor beats Cresselia in a fresh fight is if it's got a shield advantage. But if you've got an energy advantage, that can change a lot of things. Now, 5 turns of difference is what's listed here. That's about how long it would take to get to the next Night Slash to take it out at this point. So just, again, that's 2.5 wing attacks. That's what it takes. So if you can safe swap your Gliscor and they for some reason come in with a Cresselia, you can win that matchup if you've got a couple extra moves. Or they don't shield at all, which sometimes they won't. Sometimes they're bold like that. So I want to move down the list here. Primplup is an interesting one. The reason why I want to bring Primplup up is because it has Icy Wind and has Hydro Pump. So it's very much the ideal debuffer. It's good, but you don't even need XLs, but it's level 38. So it's a steep investment to power it up, but using that second attack is not so bad. So just wanted to highlight that real quick because it has Bubble, Icy Wind, and it has Hydro Pump. You could do Bubble Beam if you want to be a dick about it, but there's no point if you've got Icy Wind. It's a better move, honestly. And then we've got Tangrowth coming in as the Resident Grass Rock Thrower, which helps it against all the water types, the electric types. It helps against Cresselia, can't quite hang with it because Power Whip hurts. And Gliscor doesn't like the grass type damage even though it's got wing attack. And then you lose to the flyers that can tank the rock slides better than anything else. And then you got Magnezone, which completely walls it. Bastiodon doesn't really have a problem with it because of the fact that it's so damn tanky. And then you've got Toxicroak, Lucario. Like if they land those charge moves, the Sludge Bomb or the Shadow Ball, that takes that away from it. But also their Poison and Steel typings respectively kind of just don't give Tangrowth a lot of room there. Electivire and Luxray are interesting picks to me. Now, I don't know if you've ever encountered an Electivire in the Great League. That thing is an excellent safe swap. If you have a Shadow, it can threaten shields, and even if you lose Switch, like your opponent goes out with no shields. Like, you threaten them with Wild Charge and Ice Punch. Like, that's a very potent combination, and the only things that you need to really worry about, again, Bastiodon, Cresselia, yes, like the 5 losses it has are going to be like the top meta picks that are going to come right out of the gate, but something to keep in mind if the meta shifts in a way that, maybe Electrics will be able to hang. You got Luxray with that Community Day move of Psychic Fangs, makes it a decent opener. You can do the Psychic Fangs to debuff if your opponent doesn't quite want to hang with your electric types, but again, you have to keep in mind too that the things that resist the electric damage and don't really give a damn about the Psychic Fang damage, they're going to beat you. Like anything with counter. Bastiodon is another notable loss here. Bomb of Snow because it resists the electric type damage. So those things happen. And then I want to get to Licky Licky and Munchlax. Now the reason why I bring them up quite so much here, and despite not being able to spell worth a damn, Licky and Munchlax have access to Body Slam Lick, which is a potent combo all on its own, but they also have Earthquake, and Munchlax has Bulldoze. Now, you can already tell that Bastions are not going to like that. And Body Slam is almost unresisted in this meta, except for like the 2 ghost types. and the steel types. Now, the thing is with the steel types is you can also threaten those with earthquake. So these are very potent things, and even then the body slam damage being resisted by ghost, you have lick. So these are very effective Pokemon. You could use them as a safe swap or a lead, maybe draw out a fighter or something, and you can still put in a punch with these things because they're bulky. They've got an immense amount of stamina, like 121 defense and the stamina for Licky, and then you've got Munchlax, which comes in at over like 200 stamina or something like that. It's ridiculous. The defense, not so much, so it's kind of a trade-off, but both of them are very, very solid save swaps, and the Munchlax is cheap to build if you have one. It's a 10k Stardust move, for the second charge move. Licky is going to require an Elite TM, 50k Stardust, and it's not so bad to power up, but it's one of those things where if you don't already have it, I don't know, I would probably just skip it. Honestly, there are kind of things that you just, if you have them, go for it. So my last pick, set of picks here, kind of comes in with the wacky spice page, right? So all the things that you spice lords are going to want to run. So Dusknoir getting that shadow ball, it still sucks, but you know what? It's fun. It's got to be fun to somebody, right? Bibarel is a complete wall to Frostlass, and that's really about the only use it might have in this meta. Bonsly is a really interesting pick. You do have to completely XL it to 51, but it has counter, Rock Slide, and Earthquake. Now, that Rock Slide Earthquake with counter damage, that's a very good set of typings that you have, and it's not really easy to overcome that threat. So if you've got a Bonsly, it actually would be really good in this meta. Like, let's look at Bonsly for a minute. Like, I'm not going to take too much time on these spice picks, but Bonsly is a beast. Like, look at what this thing gets. Like, obviously it loses to the other counter users, or not really all of them, but Toxicroak specifically, you're going to lose to the ghost types because yes, you get the rock slides off, but Driftblim is just resisting everything else. And Abomasnow is going to be able to get that. It has to land the energy ball. Empoleon is going to be able to waterfall down like that. That's probably one of those things where it just gets to the second waterfall and takes you out before it goes down. Yeah. So it just completely waterfalls down. It chunks down. It does 16 damage. It does a respectable amount. It takes if it shields up, it can outlast you. So even if you take a rock slide, it's still going to be able to take you out. So just be careful against Empoleon with that. But Bonsly it's a really interesting pick. It's got a really good broad typing. It can hang with a lot of things here. Land that earthquake and the rock slides, take out a lot of things. It's just super potent if you have the XLs for it, which maybe you do. Maybe you're a Spice Lord with 296 XL Bonsly candy, and go for it. Hippowdon is a ground type. In this meta, overall ground type damage is going to be really effective as well as the fire damage. A lot of the top meta things are weak to it. Lucario, Toxicroak, Bastiodon, Probopass, like all of those tanky things are usually weak to it. So if you get something that can dish out ground type damage, that's usually not going to be a bad thing. The thing is that the ground type users in this meta are pretty squishy, being Garchomp, Hippowdon, Mamoswine. For the most part, they're pretty squishy. So if you can find ground damage from something a little bit more reliable like Gliscor, maybe that'd be pretty good. Next down on the row here, we've got Honchkrow is a literal flying glass cannon. If you can hit anything with a charge move, you're probably going to take it out. Like a Brave Bird will probably annihilate just about anything if you can get to it. Monferno I threw in here because it is an only fire type. It does have access to Blast Burn, and it does have access to, I think, Close Combat. So, like, it's not, or is it Fernape? I didn't say Monferno, did I? Yeah, Close Combat and Blast Burn. So it's got like a nuke sort of moveset, but it takes a while to get there because of Fire Spin. Mamoswine is very squishy, but has that ice type damage and the ground type damage. So if you see maybe a lot of electrics, like this Pachirisu, it's adorable, and it can outlast a whole lot of things because of it being a full XL in nature. It's number 3 on the list. Like, Pachirisu, I don't know how you would have it at this point unless you literally live where it spawns. It can beat a lot of really, really strong things because of how bulky it is and because it just Volt Switch and the Thunderbolt damage that it can put out. And it's got Thunder Punch and Thunderbolt. So it's like those things all together, like with the bulk, just allow it to overcome so many things that aren't ground types or grass types, things that resist the damage, right? Or that outbulk it, like Bastiodon and Cresselia. Drapion, I guess, is just spammy enough to take it out. So there's that to also consider. And Weavile has Focus Blast. So a good, like another save swap. Maybe you can get to the Focus Blast just before the Bastiodon maybe gets takes you out with those smackdowns. And Staraptor is double nuke moveset, has close combat Brave Bird. It can put a hurtin' on a lot of things. So, just some spice picks. Not everybody has these things, and these aren't exactly super high meta, but they're definitely worth a look if you're looking to have some interesting fun. Now, the last thing I'm going to hit on before we close this video out here, guys, is these cores now. So I've picked 4 of like the most potent cores that I could find, and you'll find that most teams will probably run these out of the gate. So Drifblim and the 2 steel types here, Magnezone and Empoleon, they form a near perfect core. And there's not a lot of things that can break that core. Like Magnezone's the only thing that breaks the Drifblim's Empoleon core. And that's, even considering like if you land the Shadow Ball or if you land Hydro Cannon, like that takes the Magnezone out. And you could even 2-shield down a Magnezone if you're having the Empoleon if you really needed to. So very, very potent core there. You could even run all 3 in a team if you wanted to. Another one of my favorite cores is the Frostlass Toxicroak core. That's going to be a very potent core as well. Not many things are going to be able to beat that core here. It really just kind of comes down to, I think Drifblim has a chance if it can farm up some energy. And forgive me for not having my PV poke up on this screen. I'll throw it up on the screen as I kind of get to the end here. Empoleon is going to be so interesting in this meta. Just complete random side note, because there was a Empoleon on my other screen, so it's just brain fart. So the Empoleon, or not the Empoleon, the Toxicroak and Frostlass core get really only broken by Frostlass herself because of the fact that it's neutral and then a ghost type against the Toxicroak. Wormadam Trash, because of the steel typing, is going to be able to put a hurtin' on Frostlass, as well as be able to handle Toxicroak with those confusions. Gallade is also a big core breaker to this team just because of how much those confusions chunk, and because the Avalanche the Powder Snow is neutral. If the Gallade shields, it can do enough to really just shut down the core. The most disgustingly meta core that I can think of is Cresselia Bastiodon. They just cover each other perfectly, so if you want to play a super tanky team and degenerates that I don't like it because it's meta, and I don't want to play that. But if you like it, you got an XL Bastiodon and a Cresselia, fucking go for it. If you want to win games, that's a good way to do it because that's a super strong core. It's really hard to beat, and I think that you could win a lot of games with it. The last one I'll throw up here is the Gastrodon Double Dark Poison. That's a team as well, but you could also run it just as a core. Run something super strong that can deal with like grass types, ice types, or flying types with the Gastrodon, and then have one of those like as a save swap or a closer. I feel like that would be a really potent kind of pairing of a team. But those are really the 4 most potent cores, and on some of the core breakers on the the Gastrodon Dark Poison. And also, something else to consider for the Cresselia Bastiodon core is Lucario. Like, that's why Lucario is ranked number 1. It can annihilate a Bastiodon easy, and it can also Shadow Ball off the Cresselia. So if it lands a Shadow Ball, like that's the core breaker right there. That's why it's so potent. So throwing up this core here with Drapion and Gastrodon here, I find that the things that really core break it, technically Frostlass, if it lands an Avalanche, and assuming that the Drapion can't get a crunch off in time. But aside from that, like a Gastrodon with either energy or HP advantage is the only other thing that really breaks that core apart. So again, very, very potent core, and that's assuming that the Drapion in this case is running Aqua Tail, which, because of most things resisting the poison damage, all the steals, it's probably not a bad idea to run Aqua Tail. You could go either way with that one. And then just last kind of core breaker, I'll check up here. And again, there's not really any core breakers for the first one with the double steel and the Drifblim. It's just an opposing ghost type that can get a Shadow Ball off, or Magnezone itself if it doesn't get taken out by something else. So, just super, super strong cores here. I'll take one last moment to just check out this Cresselia and Bastiodon core. So the only real core breakers you're going to have here, Magnezone technically core breaks it, and the one shields because of the wild charge damage that it can put out. And Munchlax can because of the lick damage, and then the Bulldoze from to the Bastiodon will take it out. And then Lucario is, again, like I mentioned, a core breaker for that one because of the Shadow Ball. And then Bastion can core break its own core if it has, again, HP, energy, whatever advantages you can get. But ladies and gentlemen, that's pretty much going to be it for this meta analysis here. Now, this is going to be a super fun meta. I can't wait to go get in and try it out. I love Master League, but man, I'm so bad at it, so I can't wait for this rotation to be over, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. If you want to see more videos like this, I'm gonna do these more often for my patrons. But like, if this is something that really people want to see, I'll consider doing more just for general public sake. But I mean, it's been a blast. I love looking at metas when they come out and just kind of finding the things that tick in the meta and how to take them down. So without further ado, everybody, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate watching this video. I appreciate if you want to like, comment, or subscribe to the channel, or if you want to check out the Patreon for more tips and meta analysis and just everything under the sun for GBL to get better at it before they fix the game, so that we can hit the ground running when they finally fix the game. If they fix the game, they will. They're gonna fix it. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me today. I appreciate you watching, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.